Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for still being with us.
And we're back. These are the famous words.
Yeah, and we're back. Thanks to our participants, to our speakers, and to our partners.
Yes.
And following next, we have. Are you with us, Saad?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, how are
Can you hear
you?
me?
Yes,
Hello,
very
I'm good.
well.
How are you?
We're good, we're good. How else? How can we be at Codecamp? Only good.
So,
Everything that's
awesome.
happening here is good and great and greater and so on. Okay, where are you based now?
I'm in India, Pune.
Is it morning? Is it late in the day?
It is 7:30 p.m. now.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, close to our
2.5 hour difference.
2.5 hours.
Quite good.
yeah, exactly.
Excellent, good. So, what's your talk today?
So today I thought I'll speak about aspect of security that we generally don't think about because we don't even factor into it, right? The meeting that we are having in Zoom, right? Zoom was famous for having some security loopholes, and they have to patch fix and everything. And since then, there has been a shift towards security, not just features and everything, right? Even if a product is a little less featureless, but it is more secure, people will tend to go over there because that's the general trend towards security, right? And to facilitate that, people have expensive tools baked in the CI/CD pipeline. They ensure their code is secure, their environments are secure, right? Liran, who spoke earlier today, right, of Sneak, like best tool. I'm not promoting it, but it's generally a really good tool, right? And I
Well,
use
if
it
it's a good tool, why
on a
not
regular basis.
promoting it? If it's a good tool, why not promoting it?
Right, exactly. So I use it frequently, right, on professional and personal projects also. But I wanted to speak about a topic that we might not even consider, right? Browsers are like a basic requirement for every developer, right? Whether it is a backend developer, manager, UI developers, designers, right? And everyone uses browsers to develop and to communicate with others, right? But what if the problem is in the browser itself? The way we are using it, the tools that we're using it. What if the problem is there? And that we don't even know about. We can have millions of dollars of spent in security, but what if the simplest problem is in the tool that we don't even know about? So that is where I came up with the topic, and I thought that I will share the knowledge with the community here.
You made us curious already.
Quite interesting. So yeah, let's not delay it any further. So you have the floor, and then we regroup for discussions towards the end.
Sure. I hope by the end of this meeting I make you scared also because of the loopholes. Kidding. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
It's on.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. So, hello guys. So we are here, like I mentioned earlier, to talk about browser extensions. Are they a danger in plain sight, right? So just for the few of us who don't know what browser extensions are, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to introduce what browser extensions are, what they can do, how do they do it, what is the permission model that they follow, some fun stuff that you're going to go through. We are going to play a game of spot the difference. I'm going to show some metrics related to that, and then we are going to go to the conclusion of it. Starting off, right? So browser extensions are basically zipped bundles of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and images that basically customize the browser experience. In this case, Google Chrome. They have the same access to the APIs that a normal web application has. So we can use window objects, we can use navigators, we can use the storage APIs, the cameras, everything else, right? Wide range of functionalities are possible when we start building and consuming browser extensions. They can modify the user experience and the way we interact with the browser and make it more personalized and more customized, right? that is a very brief introduction about browser extension. Fun fact that uh, I'm sure that many of us hate Internet Explorer when it comes to supporting cross-browser functionality and cross-browser support, right? But it was one of the first browsers back in 1999 where they started supporting extensions, and they were the first major browser to support it. And then in 2004, other browsers started supporting it, and then eventually now it is that most of the popular browsers support browser extensions. So you must have noticed that I was focusing more on Chrome as a browser base, right? And someone might argue that, come on, there are Firefox, there's Safari, Opera. Opera's pretty much dead, but okay, let's consider it, right? Opera, Internet Explorer, right? But then why am I focusing on that? As you can see here from the data that I've collected, right? This is for September 2020, and you will see that nearly 60 to 65% of all the people accessing the internet are using Chrome browsers. So that is why I thought of addressing it using Chrome as a base, because that'll cover most of the users that we have. So what can browser extensions do, right? So you can categorize them as some are productivity related. They can have your to-do list. They can have your focus, which basically reduces your social media clutter and notifications. It can be a handy time zone converter if you're working with different people on different time zones. It can be improvement for your language skills, like Grammarly is, which can correct your emails and stuff. And also for LastPass, which is like basically a password manager for, that you can use for secure accounts. Then the next category is ad blockers. Of course, no introduction needed for ad blockers. YouTube is famous for it. And now they've added two ads, but moving on to customization, they can customize the behavior of a certain aspect of the tabs or the window itself. You can customize the themes, and there are some developer tools like Throttler to simulate others' page speeds. To simulate how will your website behave in different internet connections. So how do they actually do that, right? So for any browser extension, you need two things. One is the manifest.json, which tells the Chrome browser what are the configuration files that are required by this particular extension. The next thing is background pages, which is I would say, the part where it runs when a particular extension is enabled. For that particular tab, a background page or a background.js file actually runs. So you can see in the diagram here that there are other elements to it also. One is a pop-up HTML, pop-up JS, and content script. So all three of them are optional. But so when I click a particular extension, if I see some drop down, right, how does it look like is defined by popup.html. What is the functionality behind it is defined by popup.js, right? Now, content script is something that binds everything together and gives us a cohesive experience, where content script can communicate with different tabs for the particular window. It can communicate with different windows that we have in the particular browser. Of course, not incognito unless you explicitly grant access to the extension to do that. And that is at a very high level how a browser extension works on Chrome, right? So I mentioned briefly about the permissions that it requires. So for any extension, the permissions can be categorized into two categories. One is mandatory, which without which the browser the extension cannot run. They are called as required. And there are some optional ones, which like say, for example, when you go to maps.google.com, right? It'll ask you for your location, okay? But if you deny it, you can still use that application. That's the optional permission model that we have, okay? So what are the permission examples? We have active tabs, background, geolocation, browsing data, clipboards, access, downloads, history, and many other things, right? So like I mentioned earlier, anything that a normal web application can access, the same access can be taken up by the extension itself. So let's do a quick demo in which I try to build a dark theme extension for Medium and Stack Overflow. So hopefully I can So I go here. So I have that extension available here. Now you see that I've added that extension, right? Now let's open medium.com. Okay, let's give it a little longer. There we go. And I will just pin my extension here for quick access. And if I click it, wow, there we go. So yes, it's not the best example, but let's just pretend it's like the best dark mode theme extension that you have, right? That's so cool. Oh my God, look at this. I can go to some other websites also, and it can have the dark theme enabled for it. Oh, it's exceptionally slow today. I don't know what's wrong. There we go. So we have this here. So which is all well and good, right? But coming back here, right? Yes, yeah, so cool, much amaze, much wow, and yeah, so it's not the best of the extension that I've made, but let's just assume this is the best dark theme extension that everyone's starting to use, right? But then, is it? Is it just that? Is it that it is just doing the dark theme and nothing else, right? Let's look at the code that I have here, right? But before that, let's look at some examples here that I have. There you go. So what it is doing is basically, very cleverly, it is providing the functionality that we want, which is the dark theme, right? But in the background, it is taking screenshots of your current tabs, okay? Any tabs that you've opened or reloaded, okay? Capturing that, sending it to a remote server, okay? And then the data is there. So let's quickly look at what I've done here. It's a very simple extension where this is the logic I've written for actually having the basic feature that it recommends, right? Which is toggling between dark and light mode. But then there is a bunch of other functionality here that you can see, right? It is making a call, okay, a harvest call to API that I've hosted here on my machine itself. It is setting some data. It is taking the screenshot, okay, of the visible tab here. And you can see I've added a timer because just in case a page is a little slower to load, this will add the delay and get the screenshot. Once it has the screenshot, it sends it to the database, which I just showed here, right? So can you imagine the risk that it has on us as a whole community, right, who are using it? And we don't even know that it was doing it in the background, right? For us, yes, it's working, right? I mean, it's obvious it's working. It's so cool, such an application. I'll go to the web store, give 5-star rating. Yes, it's the best dark mode application. But then you see the problem here, right? And without any additional inputs from your side, right, or manual intervention from your side, it was advertised as a medium only, a medium and Stack Overflow only. But if I open any other tab, right? Let's say I open, Twitter, right? It can capture this screenshot. It can capture any new screenshot, any new tab that you open or reload, and it can capture the data. And that is where we need to be very, very careful about what extensions are we using, right? So so there's an extension, and then there's always a dark side of any technology. So browser extensions are very helpful. There's no denying it, right? But as always, a technology by itself is not good or bad. There's always a dark side to it because how we use it, right? Like I mentioned, what are the dark sides of this particular extension that I have? It can capture nearly everything on the browser, right? Whether it is your bank accounts, right? Whether you are resetting your passwords, it can look at the secret questions that you are setting secret question answers for recovery purposes for your account, and then they can gain access to that, right? let's say you're working in a company environment where you're working on embargoed assets, right? Which is like you have to keep those assets secret till the company releases it, right? But let's say you have an infected plugin or malicious plugin, and they take the screenshots and expose it, right? Not only your company will be liable to huge sums of you know uh, uh, lawsuit actions, but also you'll be under the gun because the leak was from your side, right? It can access the clipboard data. Generally, what we do is, we have a notes application running in which we have all the environment password saved. It is copy it, paste it, and run it, right? But then extension can access clipboard data also. So essentially, they can gain access to your environments also if it is not IP listed or protected behind a VPN, right? They can look at your browsing history and habits, right? So let's say that I have the habit of opening or listening to YouTube music when I am doing something. So they can generate a pattern over time that, between 7 to 8 p.m. Saad opens YouTube and listens to music. So they have that data that you didn't even know that you're giving away, right? You'll be open to phishing attacks. They can inject ads, right? They can redirect genuine URLs to malicious, similar looking websites for, and then, they can orchestrate a huge amount of phishing attacks also. Let's look at another plugin, right? So dark theme was just a basic example, right? Let's look at another plugin that I have here. So this one here, actually, before, okay, let me go back here, select, there we go. Now, I'm going to open YouTube in an incognito window so that, my credentials are not used, right? But if you see here, if I reload, right, you will see that these these recommendations that come across are completely random. Yes, some of them might be repeated, right, based on your geolocation, where you are, what is more popular in your area, and everything, right? But now let's give my plugin incognito access. So this is not mandatory for the plugin to run. It's just to showcase what the problem is, right? Now, if I refresh something, tell me if you see a pattern here. This is one refresh. This is second refresh. Third refresh. No matter how many times I notice, some of you might have already figured out, these 4 videos, right, are always at the top of my recommendation list, right? How did I do that? Now let's look at the code that we have here, right? What I'm doing is basically I have this data that I've pre-populated here, and I am injecting it in the YouTube homepage, so to speak, and I'm injecting it here as that's why no matter what the recommendations are, these 4 will always be on the top. Now, for the people who generally think about these things, right, they will see the long-lasting implications that can have, or the vastness of the problem that I'm talking about here. Okay. Let's present again. So when you think about now, election season is currently going on in the US, right? And political parties pay huge amount of ridiculous amounts of data to get, even a little edge over the other candidates that they have, right? I'm not saying political parties do, just saying it upfront. Otherwise, I don't want people saying, "Oh, Saad said this." But yeah, just imagine a political party gets access to this kind of plugins, and they start injecting, okay, uh, their preferences in your YouTube feeds, right? In your Facebook results, in your Twitter results, in your Google results as well, right? Think about the long-lasting implications that can have, right? Because these things are not something that is concrete. That just looking at the video, I will not be immediately going to say, "Oh, XYZ is good, this is bad," right? But it'll sow that doubt in my head that what if this person is not that good, and that is enough for the other candidate to have that edge, right? They can also inject ads, right? They can inject clickbait ads. They can inject sponsorship or affiliate links that you don't even know about. Suppose if you're accessing Amazon.com, there's an affiliate link, which basically, if you use affiliate link, the persons whose link that is, they will get a small kickback on the items that you buy, right? Just imagine someone, this extension does that also, right? So it is a very scary scenario that most of us don't even know about, right? But then the most logical question is like, come on, Saad. I mean, this is Google, right? I mean, this is Chrome Web Store. Of course, they might have definitely some security checks in place. They are not stupid. They're like multi-billion-dollar company, right? Which is true. They do have some checks, but then like let's look at some examples, right? In 2018, right, 5,000 users were affected, okay, because of just two plugins, two false plugins, two malicious plugins, and 5,000 users were affected. They were clickbait ads, and they were redirecting users from legitimate sites to malicious sites. That number rose to 20 million again, where about 500 plugins were again removed by Google after people reported them that these are not behaving as intended, right? Just last year, right, there was a cryptocurrency. In the past couple of years, there was a boom for cryptocurrency, and now it's like gone down, mining and stuff. But there was this extension that can, help you mine data and everything. Basically, what it required was for you to sign in, right? And then it will give you some kickbacks in terms of the pages that you access. But that plugin not only did not give the users what they wanted, but they stole 23.23 bitcoins, which is a little over 81 million US dollars before it was actually, removed from Play Store, right? And yes, there were some legal proceedings after it also, but then that person got 81 million, right? Most of us don't even earn that much in a lifetime, right? And this person earned it just by writing one malicious browser extension, right? This is just last month, right, where 79 malicious extensions were removed from the store, okay, because they were injecting ads and they were of the malicious nature, right? So if there were security checks in place, right, these incidents wouldn't have occurred in the first place, right? And this is just the top four that I chose. There are many, many more that if you can just Google, you'll see that like a huge list of items there, right? So let's look at a couple of real life examples, right? There was back in 2015 or 14, I think so. Avast antivirus, everyone is aware of, right? They started suggesting that oh, this is our browser extension. Use it; it'll help you get browserware more securely, and which it might. I've not looked at the source code, so I don't know which it might. But then people started noticing this, right? Whenever they started visiting any e-commerce website, they started seeing these ads, that this particular product that you're seeing is cheaper somewhere there. And they're like, what's this? I didn't install it. Was suddenly Avast recommending this to me, right? And then there was a huge post written by How to Geek, and then there was back and forth between Avast and How to Geek that no, we always declared it upfront. I don't know why you're making a huge deal out of it and everything. And basically, they denied the allegations, right? But the bottom line that I want to highlight here is that yes, that browser extension might be actually doing that what it was suggesting, right? Where it was making browsing the web more secure, right? But then what is this? I don't want this, right? And this was just bundled with it, right? Which is not the best way to go. But of course, they immediately removed this particular plugin once it got traction, right? Uh, let's look at another plugin here in the bottom, right? So this is AVG's um, plugin extension that they have, right? Just look at the amount of permissions that it requires, right? It requires access to your website, to your browsing history, changing the search page, search setting, start page, manage your downloads, apps, extensions, themes, communicating with cooperative native apps. By that, they mean a desktop application. And then there were many more permissions. I was like, why you're using so many data? Why don't you take my laptop also with you and go, right? I mean, just imagine the amount of permissions that they had, right? And that they require just for giving a safe experience, right? And it is widely known in the security industry that browser extensions by antivirus products generally are not that helpful, and they might bring value, but then if you're being sensible, you don't need them, right? So, so coming back to the whole question of, come on, it's Chrome Web Store, it might be secure, right? But we need to understand no system is perfect, right? Daily, they might be getting thousands and millions of requests, right? Of adding a Chrome extension to their store, right? They have some automated systems in place, which no system is perfect, right? We need to agree to that fact, right? And generally what happens is when I am going to write a malicious browser extension, I'm not going to write it from day one, right? I will try to build some, user base around it, try to gain the trust of the users, and then I will push it, right? Which is typically what is observed, right? The first version that we have is always an innocuous one, and it is very like safe. Oh yes, in dark mode, yeah, super awesome, we can do that, right? But then once updates are automatically installed for plugins that we don't know, extensions that we don't know about, in the background, Chrome automatically updates them. And that is where the problem actually starts, right? They will work as advertised, but they might have some background operations that you are not aware of, right? An extension is removed only after it is reported by many people, right? And that is where, uh, we as a community come into picture. And I will speak about this topic later in the talk also, but they don't, Google doesn't have a system to check every plugin, every single publish update, right? It works on the community feedback, right? If X amount of people report this plugin is malicious, they will investigate it, and then if it is found genuine, they will remove it, right? Then you might say that, oh come on, but then how am I supposed to understand which plugin is good, right? uh, the problem is the easy answer is that no, there is no easy answer, right? I mean, you have to be very careful, right? Look at this plugin, right? Microsoft Office plugin, right? Which is probably a very good extension that they have. It just has 4,000 reviews, and it is downloaded around there's a huge number of times, right? Dark Reader, which even I have installed, right, just has 6.8K reviews of more than 4 stars, right? But look at this plugin, which is malicious, right? 22,000 reviews of more than 4 star, and more than 10 million users download, right? And how do they achieve this fake numbers? Is that they orchestrate huge amount of fake downloads and orchestrate huge amount of fake reviews, right? So just looking at the star rating and the number of downloads is not sufficient in this day and age, unfortunately. Right. Come on. Shit. All right. The game that I wanted to play was, in case you all didn't see that, right? These three plugins that I have taken a screenshot of, they are of ad block. YouTube is very famous now. They've doubled the ads, right? Like you have to watch 2 ads before you can start watching a video that you want, which is stupid, but it's their business model. Can't help it. So these three plugins promise to block the ads, right? Just looking at them, right? There is no way to know, right? Which plugins, which extensions are safe, which are not, right? I mean, if you all didn't see that, right? Just take a wild guess. I'll just give a couple of seconds to just for you to choose which ones are fake, which ones aren't. So if you've decided that, they look legitimate, but, some of them are wrong, just to answer that question, these two are fake plugins, and they were removed. Now, if you go and search for them, you'll not find them on the Play Store, Web Store, extension store. Here, right? These three plugins are, again, ad blockers that they work as advertised, apparently. And can you just look at them and tell me which ones do you think are fake? Like if you go on the Chrome Web Store and see a search for them, these three results come up, right? Which one will you trust, right? And probably you might go with this one, 5 stars by 14,000, nearly 15,000 people, right? Whereas this one looks a little shady, it's just 2 star, but this one is also respectable, 4 stars with 200 plus downloads, right? But then you would be dead wrong, because all three of them are fake extensions. That was a trick question that, at least one of them might be good, but all of them are fake here, right? And they've, again, been removed. So this, again, was done by ZDNet, and they did a huge roundup of extensions that they checked out different extensions, and then they reported. And then this was one of the few plugins that were removed as part of the 500 plugins that were extensions that were removed last month. So the question is comes back to, how do I protect myself? The answer is obvious, right? Wear a mask. It's Corona time, right? What do you want? But jokes aside, right? So we need to understand that in the day, in today's times, nothing is free, right? Uh, Unless it's open source, which is a different case. But when it comes to commercial products, nothing is free. If they're not charging for you, probably you are the data that they want, right? Your data is what they want, right? So we need to understand that fact first, because once we understand that, then our perspective changes in terms of, whether it's extensions or using any other software that we want, right? There has been a shift, like I mentioned earlier in the talk, right? That we are focusing a lot on the processes and everything, right? Even Chrome and iOS, right? Sorry, Android and iOS in the recent updates of Android 14 and Android 11, right? They are more privacy focused. They give app very specific permissions only when you want to use it. You can reject it, right? But that's not what happens here with in extensions. We are very cautious about it. At least I hope we all are cautious about the permissions that we grant to our applications on a phone. We need to be more cautious, if not the same level of cautiousness, when it comes to extensions that we install, right? The next obvious question we need to ask is, do we really need that extension? I mean, seriously, do we really need that extension? If we really need it, then we can look at it. But just look at this plugin, right? All it does is, okay, it has different images of Nicolas Cage from different stuff, and you can use it for meme generation or whatever. But all this extension does is show you some images from Nicolas Cage, Nicolas Cage. That's it. I mean, 9,000 people have downloaded it, more than 9,000, and more than 99 have rated it nearly four star. These are the kind of plugins that we need to be really asking ourselves about, like, do we really need these extensions, right? I mean, a simple image.google.com and just type Nicolas Cage and you will see a bunch of memes already available, right? If you want to go to that level. Do we need an extension, right? I'm not saying this plugin is malicious, but then this plugin can be malicious had the developer intended to be that way, right? That is where we need to be really careful about, right? Which is the point that I mentioned here, that we need to be really careful about the extensions that we install, right? And this is where we as UI developers come into picture, right? Probably, a Java developer might not know what it looks like. A manager or, a technical director or CXOs might not know whether the plugin is good or not. But we as UI developers can actually go and inspect the source code of a particular plugin, look at the permissions that it has, right? Look at the API calls if it is making any. And whenever we see, we need to start reporting those so that, the community as a whole is protected from it, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you start, you take page 1, you take page 2, you take page 100 and start, listing all of them. That's not what I'm asking. All I'm asking is that any plugin that you want, right? Just we as UI developers are uniquely qualified to look at the source code, look at if it is a malicious plugin or not, and then spread that awareness, right? And here's a quote that I would like from Harry Potter that Professor Moody always says: constant vigilance, right? We should be constantly vigilant about the things that we do. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you. Dan, over to you.
We're here. We were trying a little
Yeah,
bit.
Florin was going through his browser extensions right now, trying
Exactly.
to uninstall a few.
I've detected some, I don't know if it's suspicious, but they look strange to me. I'm gonna try to follow your instructions to identify the possibly malicious ones. All right.
But indeed, it's a scary world out there. So whenever I hear talks like yours or Liran's, and then it makes you think of all the bad things that can happen, or you read such articles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we always like to think that everything is all hunky dory and good, and everything is positive. But that's not the real world out there, right? Real world is just that. It gets real very fast out there. Things go bad.
I had a question. For instance, yeah, there are let's say, if you look at browser extensions, there are some that are purposely evil, right? So they try to
Right.
do that. But also, good extensions can be hijacked. So the question will be, what can we as developers do if we are developers of browser extensions? Are there any means or things that we can implement to prevent such thing, to a small measure at least?
Honestly, there's not much that you can do. In fact, there were a couple of cases in the past that I would like to mention where they were legitimately very good browser extensions, right? And what happened was uh, their GitHub accounts were hijacked, right? And then the hackers started publishing updates, malicious updates. And there are many plugins out there that if you look at them, right? And everyone started reporting, hey, this plugin should work just fine. What happened? Like, why is it showing me ads suddenly? And then the credibility of that plugin goes down. And then not just that plugin, but your as a developer also credibility goes down drastically, right? The other thing is that sometimes developers sell their plugins for an exorbitant amount of money to the malicious parties, right? And in that case also uh, that can be a huge problem for us, right? And so unfortunately from our side we can't do much as long as we are ensuring that our developer accounts are safe, our code base is secure, because once they get access to that, it's as good as they are coding the stuff that they want, right? So unfortunately, we can't do much from our side, and that is the scariest part.
I was afraid of that because indeed, I think I forget the name of the extension, but or what it did. But I do remember reading an article that said exactly that. So a malicious party purchased a browser extension and then released a new update, and that rolled out,
Exactly. Right.
turned out into
Right.
a
Right. Right.
phishing scheme. So yeah, it's really, yeah, it's then it's up to, I don't know, yeah, we need to make sure as much as possible that what we do is right, but then it's up to the users and yeah, also the third parties that are hosting the extensions.
Absolutely. In fact, there are some corporate policies which restrict you downloading and installing extensions as a whole, right? And if you want to install some extensions, you need to get it approved, right? So as a company, that's the safest way that we can go about it. But as a developer or an end user, that's like a bad deal, right? I mean, come on, I just needed a dark theme. Why can't I install dark theme? My eyes burn at night, because of the contrast and stuff. And then ad blockers, right? I cannot install them. But then instead of, it's not the case where, you can just one stick to, tackle every scenario, uh, it's not something like, one ring to rule them all scenario that, just block all extensions and we'll deal with it. That's not the best way to go about it either, right? There needs to be a middle ground that we need to come to and then decide as a corporate what they need to do about it.
What's your experience with the browsers? Are they all equal from this perspective?
In terms of supporting browser extensions?
Supporting, of course, but then being exposed to malicious extensions.
Absolutely. I mean, so Firefox also does the same thing, but since it is more open source, it is a little more well knit as a community, whereas Chrome, the developer community is good, but it can definitely be better, right? And uh, if I'm a hacker, right, and if I want to attack the most amount of people, right, I will generally look at a browser which has the most downloads, so that the reach of my browser extension will be the largest, right? So in that case, Safari is a little more secure because just the amount of people using it is less, right? So Firefox also, the percentage when compared to Chrome is very less. So yes, there are malicious plugins there, but then the amount of it are far less when compared to the Chrome store.
Okay, okay. What is it, Globant? What does this company do first?
So Globant, we are a services-based company, and we provide end-to-end services for digital transformation, right? Like the promotional videos that were going on, right? So we pride ourselves in the aspect that we are not just a developer company. We provide complete solutions, right? When it is whether it is design and latest technologies and the development that comes along with it with the latest frameworks, that is what we bring to the table that unfortunately many other companies also lack, right? So we have a dedicated studio for design. We have dedicated studio for QA and gaming, right? And what we do is we work with different studios, and they manage different clients, and we work on a variety of clients, right? From gaming to digital transformation, like I mentioned, in the automotive and the aviation industry. We work on some other aspects also, which you can look at the page of Globant to see which other projects that we actually work on. But uh, that is what I like about Globant, So it is not just a typical MNC where you come, you do this, right? Like this browser extension also, Globant gives you the freedom as a developer to explore these areas, right? Which is generally not the case that I've seen in other startups or smaller companies. So that is a really good thing here.
All right, but do you also write browser extensions?
I do, but not many, honestly, because I used to do in the past, but then those were, to try different features, what are the plugins to do that? But as a serious feature-based plugin, no, I haven't done that, no.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it was like a tricky question more. So I was curious if Globant is doing that, and how does it prevent, exposure to malicious things? Does it?
So this, right. So what we generally do is that we have these tech talks within the company to spread the awareness about these things, right? So the whole idea is that if we as developers are aware of these things, we can raise it in the projects that we are working with, and then generally the knowledge propagates from there. So that's the whole idea. That's why we have these. That's why we have different initiatives within Globant to explore different areas, right? So in Globant India, like I'm leading the security and performance initiative, in which we look at the different ways that we can optimize, come up with different POCs to showcase it. And this was one of the things that we did in the last quarter, where we saw this as a problem, explored it, and then we came to this conclusion that I did.
I totally agree with the fact that when it comes to security aspects, awareness is the first thing that we need to do, and then this knowledge then gets embodied in the teams and the product. And it's not something that you check every once in a while, but it's your way of developing the systems.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right, so thank you, Saad. It's been both frightening and interesting at the same time. Thank you very much for being with us. And yeah, let's I hope to see you next time at Codecamp.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak here. It was a great experience. Thank you so much.